I wanted to welcome everybody to this really exciting presentation. And I want to tell you a little bit about the Innovative Product Development Center. We're with the Santa Fe College Innovative Product Development Center, and we work with companies to develop their products, develop their business plan, raise investment, and get their products to market. And we are supported by a grant from the Economic Development Administration. And we're here to help entrepreneurs to do that. And the price is right, we're free. So Elena and myself, we're here to help you. And you can always reach out to us. We will follow up with you after this presentation with a follow-up email with our contact info and info on the presenter. And I wanted to encourage you to come to each of our webinars. We have them every Wednesday from 10:30 to about 11:30, 12. And although next week we will be skipping next week because of 4th of July and then continue the following week. But you can follow everything on our schedule on our website, and Elena will send that to you as well. But I wanted to introduce our presenter, Maria. Isabel, she's a professional with more than 25 years in improving business and leadership. And this is a topic that we've never had before on the Innovative Product Development Center. And we're really excited to learn about cross-cultural issues, how to deal with companies, how companies can deal with other companies and other countries. So we're excited to hear about this. And Maria, we want to thank you so much for doing this presentation, and welcome.
Okay, thank you, Carl, for your invitation. And yes, more than happy to be part of this organization and to try to help with my knowledge to improve or to increase the growing of the businesses or the small businesses in the United States. Okay, give me a second and I pull this from start. Let me minimize my screen. Okay, again, Carl, thank you so much, and thank you everybody for being part of this presentation. And again, thank you for the kind introduction. Yes, my name is Maria Montoya Leonard. My name is really long because I'm from Latin America, Colombia. And one of the things that you want to learn about other countries in Latin America is your name are very long. Everybody is Maria Isabel, Maria Claudia, Maria's is a very long name. And we use two last names. We use Maria Isabel, Rodriguez Sanchez. It's a lot of names that is in one name. It's not common than here. This is the magic of culture. One of the things that we want to learn or we want to do here is asking you the first questions. How many of you guys, or would you like to work or do business with people with different cultural background? It's not only going to another country, it's not going to work with another culture in another country. Also inside of the United States, you have these opportunities. We have in the United States a variety among of culture here that they know we can collaborate or we can have business with them. And what is the thing that we can say that is the key to succeed in a business around the world? Why? Let me think. I'm moving this to down because something happened with my. This is the thing that I want to share with you some of my experiences working abroad. I had the opportunity to visit so many countries in Latin America, to make business with so many countries in Latin America. I was working with IFC, World Bank, in communications since 2001 until now. I helping them to develop the business of the cultural and communication initiatives in all of these countries. And the most beautiful thing that I learned with this experience is all of these countries in Latin America speak the same languages. They speak Spanish, but the Spanish in these different countries are different. One word that in Colombia for me is appropriate, for them is not appropriate. One tradition in my country is different than in their country. And with that, in that moment, we had to adapt one initiative, improve the doing business in Latin America to every single country, because they have to understand in a different way. That is the magic of communication through multicultural backgrounds. With that, I learned that you have to understand the cultural difference. You have to understand the etiquette. You have to create these new things when you are going to another country. With that, you will improve your work relationship with them. It's not that I don't know anything about you guys, it's not you don't know anything about me and we want to create a business. This is like a marriage. When you are going to another country or when you want to meet the girl, you want to know her. You are going to visit their parents, you're going to visit their family before you are doing some business or you get married with her. Business is the same with her. With that, I can see this difference when you understand cultures. When I was working in this Latin American task that IFC, that I was working with IFC, I learned so many things of different cultures. For example, in my country, in Colombia, we have different traditions. We have a lot of holidays. We have a lot of things to do. And with that, it represents different ways that the government in United States, because IFC World Bank is from United States, they want to do business with this in that days, but it was not possible because of the celebration or tradition that they have, and we have to respect that. For example, the Holy Weeks, all of this tradition that they have, the Holy Week or the thing that they are doing during these special times. That's the thing that you can learn. And again, I repeat, these countries, all of them speak Spanish. They speak Spanish, but the Spanish and the culture are different. What happened between two cultures that are really different, for example, Spain, United States, that speak different languages, is another thing to do. It's another thing to learn. And this magic of culture helping you to be more open-minded and to develop your business in a different way. One of the things that we are working about the cross-cultural etiquette, and I learned that, is that you are working, this etiquette is basically the codes or behavior, the way that they rule in a different way. And what for me is acceptable and for them is not acceptable, you know? But you are learning and you have to adapt yourself sometimes that the other culture have different things to do. I think when I learn about good cultural etiquette is to use the correct manners in the place you are conducting a business. It's align yourself with the culture and traditions of those whom you are doing business. Again, as I said the same before, I have to go every single country in Latin America and change the wording. I can use the same campaign that I use in Colombia, in Peru, in Honduras, in Costa Rica. It was different because of the language that they use and the traditions that they have. It's me that have to understand them. It's not them that have to understand me. I have to be open-minded. That's the thing that I always say to my clients. I create campaigns, but I don't create an advertising campaign. I create a campaign that move through cultures. I can create a campaign that you can adapt to American culture, to Hispanic culture. I can create a business that you can go further, that you can open your mind that is not only in one place. You can open your mind and you can visit another countries. Now with this new normality, the COVID is a new normality. And we have to understand that now we have this huge opportunity that I don't have to take an airplane or go further. I don't want to do that. I have now the opportunity to send through Zoom invite, and now I have a meeting, believe it or not, Los Angeles, Spain, here in Florida, Colombia, Argentina, so many things that before it was something that I said I can do it, and I don't like to do it. What's the thing? This is a new opportunity that new businesses have to go and see another part that they can grow into the business. If you are learning this cultural etiquette, maybe you can understand more the business and you can create a relation that go further than that. Give me a second. What is a culture context? Culture context refers the society, as I said, where people have close connections over a long period of time. We are saying this because I'm correct myself. Culture context divide in two: high context and low context. They classify, the group of people in two. What is this? If you know these countries that belong to this high context and countries that belong to this low context. The high context is, for example, when you are speaking about Latino, Hispanic, and these societies, the cultural behavior is different, and the American and the low context societies like American, Germans, all of these societies that are different. So if I understand what are the aspects, what are the rules that they have, maybe for me it's easy to make business with them. I want to share with you a personal experience. We are working between Spain and we're working between America and United States. They want to grow the business in United States. It's a very important company in Spain that they want to get into the American market. This is the majority, one of the scopes of our business, of the thing that we're working. They want to come, they want to work with us. But what happened with the high context? The Spain, or also the high context society, they love to know each other. They love to see before you, your gestures. They want to speak with you. They want to know more about you before they are making business with you. This culture needs to know your gesture, needs to know your tradition, needs to know everything about you. They need to trust on you. That's the reason there's so many of these countries, they are calling you and say, okay, can you come and can we have a meeting? Can we have a coffee? Can you come to our place? They're inviting you. They're having meetings with you before they close a deal. Low contexts are different. They are more tax oriented. I need this. I need these three things. Could you please provide me A, B, C, D in some days, and that's it. They are following up with you, and that's it. But the thing is different. And when they're trying to work between these societies, they have to understand that. And they have to adapt each other. The Hispanic, they have to adapt to the low context society, that they are more tax oriented, they are more organized, they are more that I need this, but I need this in that moment. They don't need to speak with you too much. They don't need to know about your family. Or when you want to be a friend of the person that is working with you is the next step. But before you are buying something, that's it. This is a low context societies, different than the high context. This is a very amazing situation. It's very something that is marvelous. I said that to understand how you can work with others, I was laughing with the people in Spain. They say, oh my God, I want to go there. I want to kiss into cheeks. I want to learn more about that. I want to know more about them. But in our meetings at the beginning was a little bit difficult because the clients here, they want to be very, only we have 1 hour and that's it. What you want to offer to me, if I like it, I get into a business with you. This is a different way. I have another story that I want to share with you. I was working with Enterprise Florida. They called me because they are having meetings, missions, they call missions, between companies that they want to make businesses with Latin American cultures. And one of the things that I learned from that, they said, we have issues. We create the missions, people are going there, they came back really happy. Oh my God, we are so excited. This is nice. We have the most wonderful meeting there, the ambassadors, everything is wonderful. But then nothing happened. And I say, what happened? So yes, they are sending in the past month 3,000 emails to these new clients and they never answer. And I was laughing And I said, did you know that do you know that you have to call them? You have to keep, you have to establish a contact with them. They never answer to you in an email because this high context culture needs to have in contact with you, needs to understand you. I went to the company with them, I remember that, and I sat down with the director. I said, please provide me the name, the contact, and we can start a relationship with them. I spoke with them in that moment in Spanish because I said, you have to speak with them in Spanish because some of them, they don't know English. They feel so honored that somebody from the United States, I know, is calling them, but they have to speak in their own language. They have to understand what do you want. And from 3 or 4 sessions working with them, we get into the agreement that they send so many requests to them because finally they trust on the other part in the United States. They were not afraid. That's the thing that you have to understand. Is something that, not language. Sometimes I said, oh, I want to speak a perfect Spanish. My English is not 100% perfect, but I have the ability to speak in both languages. I have the ability to communicate. Don't be afraid to communicate in the language or to find somebody that can help you to understand this culture. After 4 or 6 phone calls with them, these people were so grateful that they established business together. That's the thing, because they know it was an understanding between low context culture and high context culture. They understand each other and they are able now to create a business together. Now, when you are doing this, you have to create so many aspects. You have to be how the society reacts to so many things. That's the way that when you create a brand, you have to understand the same. You have to understand this society have a particular things to see the world than you. And with that, you never know if your brand is so important that in so many years you are going to another countries. I have to another example that is very important, is very clear with this high context and low context. Bimbo is the #1 company in Mexico related to bread. They have a lot of things that they have. I think in Latin America and Central America is the #1 bread company in this area. But here they couldn't use the name because the name that they used was not correct in the United States. That the communication is very important when you are learning about culture. Moving from that, I want to share with you some difference between high and low context culture. When we are moving this, we can say, for example, it's so many characteristics that they have. The low context culture is competitive, is task oriented. Sometimes the work style is individualistic, individual achievement, many losers, short term, all of these characteristics that they have. They have context, they are a little bit cooperative, relationship oriented, team achievement. They want to work in group, they want to get out, they want to have fun. And in the difference of the low context that they want to create a task oriented, they want to be, so we are doing this in 10 days, and this is the thing that we want to do. That's the thing, no excuse. The low context is more verbal over non-verbal. Different the high context. The high context is, they want to hug you, they want to kiss you, they want to be more, more affected to you. I have to learn, and I have to learn in different ways making business with the low context community or the low context culture. At the beginning, I was, oh my God, I was managing a company for 18 years, going to every single country in Latin America. I want to do the things similar that I was doing in Latin America until I learned the way that I have to business here in America. It was a little bit different. And with that, you can create punctuality. You want to be very tax oriented. It's a little bit different than going to another country.
If I may add, Maria, for example, One of the things that are very heavy on this nonverbal communication when you do business is the fact that some people get even offended if you ask for a contract. For instance, if you're going to any of these countries and it's a logical thought in the US, you have a deal with me, you're going to have some non-disclosure, uh, formal legal documents that protects you and so on and so forth. If you're trying to sell your products to them, if you're trying to, in any sort of business, they will tend to not have contracts with you. And it's, I believe, one of the things that a lot of our clients is like, what? It is not because they are at some point are not going to do it. It's that if you're starting with it, like we would do here in the US, it's going to scare them. It's going to not be comfortable at first and not create that relationship thing. So what is it so relationship oriented so important? For us here, which is what do you need? What do I have? How do we do business? What are perhaps the framework that we're going to use, and go for it. If you're working with people, let's say Latin America countries, you can do that, or even here in the US. One of the things that if you want to take advantage, for instance, countries in Latin America do not have the 30-day guarantee that if you have a product, you're going to use it or try it. If you don't like it, you just go back and send it back. If you do have that proposal for them, it's going to be like a mind blown, because cultures are not the same, but also rules and business are not the same. And one of those is, oh, I just, friendly, this is kind of like my friendship with the owner of the company. But the fact that I can buy your product, and if I don't like it, I can return it. Or the fact that I can try out, for those of you who has online, I remember Carl mentioned there is a lot of online businesses, the small businesses here. If you do have the opportunity to try it, and if you don't like it, just you have the freedom to cancel at any time or receive your money back. That will be a tremendous marketing tool, because some countries so far back on that kind of topic that they feel like this is so new. This is awesome. So my point is, high context and low context cultures goes beyond just the relationship personally, but also how much things you take for granted a little bit in high context culture, that if you show them that this exists, it's going to be, wow, a very good marketing tool. Wow, I can use this. So go ahead, Mari. I just want to
and as you see that she is as passionate about culture as me, and she wants to share with you everything like this, because it's very important. That's the point that Noenia said. It's very important to understand this, and this topic about so many things that for us in this low context culture, and also in United States is normal. In Latin America is completely different, and you think that, and then when you get into these places, it's very they are in shock. For example, I was working, and that Noenia gave me this idea and came to my mind. I was working with Unilever and Dina for more than 10 years, working public affairs with them and managing all of the low-income consumers in the area of Bogota and Colombia and Andean region. And the shock of the culture was so difficult because we use, for example, the powder, the soap that we use for wash our clothes in Colombia, the majority of them is powder. The low-income consumer, they use like a soap, like the sachets for shampoo. They use a sachets. With one sachet, they wash their hair for 1 week because it's people that they don't have money. And you have to adapt yourself to this culture because they understand what happened in this culture. We have a different people that they have money, and we have in these countries a low income consumer that they don't have a lot of income. Because that's the thing that we have to understand in this kind of culture. If you understand this, you can sell different things there. For example, the milk for babies in Colombia, or so many people in Pfizer, they sold a lot of milk in powder because we don't believe in Latin America and the milk that comes for kids in a liquid way. It's different. So that the thing is an understanding of different cultures and different markets. Thank you, Noenia, again for helping me with this one. And this is the idea, what is the difference between lower context culture and higher context culture. We have so many of them. We try to put an example of what are, including this between this lower context and higher context. So for example, Spain is in a higher context, South American, European, Southern European, Asian, and this is all of this that is Switzerland, Scandinavian, Australian, German, American, and some of these Africans in between, but they are having this kind of characteristics between their cultures. That is very important to understand. As I told you, we have to understand that for me is correct, for others it's not correct. For example, if I want to do business with Argentina, I can do business during January and February because they are not working. I was managing the G20 in Argentina 2 years ago with the IFC World Bank, and it was so funny because the G20 the meeting was, I think, would be around May. I don't remember exactly the day, but they told me, if you want to do something before December 15, because we are going in vacation between January and February, and you can find anyone here. They don't answer the phone, they don't do anything because for them, it's like that. The same as in Colombia. In Colombia, going in vacation December 15, and they go back to work in January 12th, and you can do any business. You can call anyone. If you don't make your, you don't send your invoice before, you are losing your time. This is the thing that you have to understand. Spain is the same. Spain is August. In August, you can do any business because they are in having a summertime. This is things that we have to understand. Also, when you are working with the United States, 4th of July, all of these culture things, Thanksgiving Day, the people that maybe they don't understand, but for us are really important. Continue our conversation. I said, again, different cultures don't see the world in the same way. This is very important to say. Because and again, what for me is correct, for others maybe is not correct, and vice versa. And we have to master in this culture. We have to master and understand. We have to master and create a good impression when we are working with somebody here in the United States. For example, I have an issue with Spain when I want to work with the United States. If you can say, I want to have a Zoom meeting with you tomorrow, I have to make the invitation. I have to send, they have to be, on time. They have to know that you're sending the invitation. Maybe for us, I send you the Zoom invite before the meeting. But for the other culture, it's very important to put this in a schedule, to know what happened before, to make a calendar because they want to know what happened between today and tomorrow. For us, no. For example, I call for us because I think in Latin America, you are thinking I call you today and say, could we have a meeting now? And you say, okay, yes. But no, in America, you have to be organized. You have to send a calendar. You have to understand what you are doing. And they have to know they want to know in advance if they have the time to, to have the time to correct, to speak with you. They have to know everything in advance. That's the thing that we have more examples in countries like Canada, for example, is when you are working in countries like Colombia, Mexico, Latin America, they have an interview with you before the meeting starts. What happened with your family? Everybody is okay. Tell me about your kids. And they are talking with you about everything before the meeting starts. Another country like Canada or another low context countries, they only want to know a little bit, only to be polite. How about your family? Everything is okay with you? Yes, they don't expect that you tell them your whole story. Oh, you know, I went with my daughter, we went to the park, and we went to everything. They don't want to know the story. But in Latin America or Spain, they want to know everything. And you have to be be careful, but you have to be in a balance between these two ideas. In India, for example, they want to, you know, you can say no to something. They don't expect you to refuse to say no to a snack at the beginning. They can ask you again, but if you say no, I don't want to do this, they feel offended. They feel that you don't want to do anything with them. Another countries is very funny when you are having a business meeting and else also is a food on the table. If you are, or for example, that this thing happen is the wife, the ambassador, you have the invitation to their houses, but you don't eat the whole plate. They are thinking you don't like the food. Or maybe if you have these issues, you have to learn how to say no. Or, you know, I'm vegetarian, or maybe, for example, in India, everybody is vegetarian. And I invite them to my house to eat one day. It was a client from India that came to my house in Philadelphia. And when we are serving the food, she said, I am vegetarian, I don't want to eat. I said, no, this is beans from Colombia. And she asked me very polite, how you cook them? I said, no, nothing water. And I put a chicken bouillon in there. She said, I don't want it because I have chicken bouillon in there. So you have to ask politely if they want to eat with you, if they have any issue with the food, and what happened if you are serving this on the table. When you are having this meeting again with Latino community, we are, because I'm Latino, we speak so loud. We want to, you don't feel afraid of everybody shouting, everybody speak too loud, everybody laughing, hugging. Sometimes this is a little bit, I know, like I said, weird if you want to say that. Now we are trying to talk, and I try to resume different cultures, different manners. We are working with 4 different topics. I want to speak about everything, but I use 3 or 4 topics that are important. One of these is punctuality. The next one is business wear and physical contact and beyond the language. I am starting with punctuality. This is very important between cultures. For example, in China, I put this example in China, but I can share with you so many examples. You know, this is, you can arrive a little bit early if you are going to different trial events, for example, in China. But if you are from Mexico, Central America, Caribbean, South America, or Spain, it's very normal that people arrive a little bit late with an excuse. Sorry, I was working and this thing happened. Sorry, I did this. Sorry, I did that, because so many different things happen because they were in another meeting or something that happened to them. But it's very normal that the people arrive a little bit late to the meetings. And sometimes they have to learn between the high context cultures and low context culture that they have to be punctual with the low context cultures, because this is a very normal thing in Mexico, Central America, and the Caribbean. I was in a meeting, and I tell you my story, in Honduras, and in Colombia, everything is fast. You are working fast, you are going and eat lunch, and that's it. But Honduras take 2 hours, like you call siesta, that you can sleep after you eat lunch. And with that, I was in a meeting, I have a meeting at 2. The person, I remember it was a governor in Honduras, they arrived 35 minutes later to our appointment. And he said, oh, so sorry, I was sleeping a little bit more, and I hope you understand. But because for their culture, they have these kind of things during the meantime. And again, if you expect, you know, sometimes with the Hispanics, you prefer to, you know, call them and say, come a little bit early because we have time to speak and we have time to understand more about that. Because of not, if you're not doing this, the agenda could be really long. Another thing that you have to understand related to punctuality of hours to work. When you are working in countries like Latin America, Spain, or different kind of country, it's very usual for them to say, and happened to me so many times, can we have a meeting 8 p.m. at night? To say 8 p.m.? Yes, we can do that. I have meetings with people in Spain at 11, 10 p.m. and they are working with us. Sometimes it's very difficult for us to understand, but for us it's very important to meet us no matter what, because we are 6 hours in a difference, in our difference, hourly difference, sorry. The other thing that we have to understand a little bit more about culture.
One little thing there, Mari, if you allow me. When we mention high and low context culture, and now we're talking about time, I remember taking the difference between, for instance, high context culture Latinos versus high context cultures Asians. So these points below basically are adding to it, because if we just think about communication, ways of looking in a culture, it's going to be high and low context cultures. But these other topics are adding on top of it, because it's some of the main difference, besides the fact that, hey, these two Asians and Latinos are from high context culture, but how about the time? It's so the opposite, because not just, that's like a one layer of how to divide the cultures into, to understand a little bit, but the deeper, this other topics that Isabel is mentioning is going to help us to understand the next step to get deeper into a culture. Once you have two countries in high context culture both, or two groups of countries in high context culture both, you need to get deeper. Okay, what's the next step? How would you get to know more? And time is one of them. I believe one of the most important things to remember of this, if you can take this with you guys, it will be awesome, is some of these cultures do not want to be disrespectful because of the time. This is just a thing that people learned, and culture is just is. So a lot of people lose deals with Latinos, for instance, because their anxiety level get high. Perhaps you get upset because they're not on time, and by the time the person arrives, you're already not in the good mood, kind of thing. And if you know this ahead of time, and if you feel, open mind, like Maria said, I am not gonna let this upset me. I know they're gonna switch things around. I know they're gonna be late. So how I'm gonna manage this, because I want to do business with them. If it's backwards, we teach all the time the Latinos, do your best to do the opposite, because they're expecting this from you, and they're not gonna buy any products from someone who is, not respecting this other areas that is expected in the low context culture. So don't be mad, kind of, sort of, it will be my piece of advice, or be prepared to not be so sensitive, because let's say a CEO of a company in Mexico invites you to a quinceañera, and it's at 7 p.m. and you arrive at 7 p.m. You're very, very in a bad position moving forward, because everybody is expected at 7:30. Nobody will be there earlier than 7:30. It's a 30-minute window in social settings. So is that sound crazy? Probably yes. But as we adjust to it, is I want to make business with this company. This is the CEO. I want him to know that I can kind of like fit in a little bit. So being late, if it bothers you a lot, and you're trying to do business with low context culture, especially from some of these areas, it's going to be something you need to work with before, deal with before, so it doesn't affect you, not affect your business. As far as like how do you feel at the point of when you're shaking hands at the end of the day? So that was it, Maria. I think you just keep moving forward a little bit. We have to
No
I'll
worries.
keep wrapping this up, but I want to just toss out if there is something that I will love for them to remember. Don't be mad. This is just facts.
Thank you for everything again. It's a pleasure to, and I want to share our passion for these topics. That's very important. Thank you so much for your opinion in this one. This is another thing that we are working, the business where this is very important because I have a lot of stories about this one. Because we are in a new normality. We try that we want to wear our shirt and we won't want to wear, the suit and anything, but we want to well dress from the waist to up, and then we are using a short or something like that. But we have to be prepared for that. I have a lot of stories. One of them, the best story that I can share with you guys, I was working with a festival, a very, very, very important movie festival, film festival here in the United States. And the director, we have an appointment with the consul, and we have an appointment with so many people in other countries. And this guy, it was very cool, and he was thinking that it was very cool to appear to the meeting riding his bicycle. He was riding his bicycle. He was using a t-shirt, like, as I call you, like, it's like not formal t-shirt, but riding his bicycle. I was really shocked with that. But he was thinking he was from America and he was doing this. And I said, no, you have to understand, you have done to be cool. You have to respect others, because the agreement in that moment, we couldn't do anything. It was so funny. It was so nice to see him doing this, but the consul and other people, they took this in a bad way. That is very important that we want to understand. One of the other things, for example, in Latin America, you are going well dressed. You're going stocking, you are going high heels, you have your hand-closed shoes, and you have to wear in a nice way when you are going to a meeting. It's very important to understand that. We received so many people also that came from other countries, and also it was a VP of the whole region for one pharmaceutical company that I was working in Colombia. And she came to the meeting without stockings. I don't know if you know what I'm saying exactly, but she was well dressed with a nice dress. But I said, you have to use this kind of things in this meeting. Also, people that came to in Florida, because they are from Florida, they want to use an open toe, they want to use sandals to a meeting that is a little bit formal. You have to understand that always said in that moment, you have to dress the way that you want to get the position that you want. That is what I recommend. We have so many examples. For example, in China, you can go with jeans. We can go with high heels. We can show too much in the meeting because it's inappropriate. It's inappropriate to do this kind of things with a shirt that maybe is a mini shirt or a mini skirt, sorry, something that you can use in a business meeting. It's very important that you can address this one, because people in different countries see the things in a different way. Spain, for example, they love you to go well dressed. Latin America, they love you to go well dressed to the meeting. But again, when people call you, you're working and you can use your casual attire. You can ask, how's the casual? Can I use jeans? Can I use a shirt? Can I do this? Because that way you can go to the meeting in an appropriate way. One of the things, another thing that you have to learn with that, well, not have to, and I would like you to learn, is the physical contact. Noenia said before, and that's very important, that the high context culture, they love the eye contact. They love the gestures. They love the fashions. They love to shake hands. They love to Spain give you two kisses in a cheek. Colombia, they give you one. Sometimes they hug you. Sometimes they're doing so many things that to create this trust that the relation could evolve. Now, and we know that we have a new normality with the coronavirus, so you have to be a little bit scared with that, but in years, this thing never changed, but we have to understand this. We have to adapt, to understand the other culture love is physical contact, different than the low context cultures. They want to be more, you know, I want to say hello from here. Only when you feel the other is your friend, you can be more friendly or more, you can express more your feelings about other persons. But for us, this is very important. I remember the first time I had a meeting with somebody in the World Bank. I was really young, and I was asking, how do you feel about your family? And she said, no, we have a lot of issues, but no more. And I want to hug her. She said, no, I don't want you to hug me, because she doesn't like it. So that's the thing, that sometimes it's for both ways. The high context has to understand the low context, and they have to find out how they can work and understand things together. This is the best thing. Something that all of the different manners, this is physical contact is very important. I have some clients that told me, it's nice to see you through video, but I want to see you in person. I want to know you more. I want to know, I want to understand, I want to have this feeling, I want to have this energy with you close to me. Sometimes this is different, but we have to adapt and to understand the situation. And again, body language, different cultures, different managers. It's very important to say, to know, to learn how to say no. And sometimes it's better to say, possibly, I will try, we will see. Yesterday I was in a diversity council conference in Mexico, and it was very important to say that sometimes it's not saying no, it's open a possibility to another, you know, countries to understand, or to another cultures, if we can do something later, you know. And this is really good with the Hispanic community, to the you know, to the Latin American and Spain, because if they ask me, do you want to do this work for me, or do you want to create this campaign for me, and I say no, I can't, no, because I have to go there, or I have to understand. I say, I will try to do it because of this one, because of this happened. But you have to be very soft when you are working with the Hispanic and the Latino community. You have to be very polite in so many ways. Different that Japanese, you know, that they want you to be very direct, or Canadians, they want you to be very direct. They are looking at your nonverbal communication. So many times you have to understand that. If I'm here in a video working with you and I was like this, oh yes, I don't know, or I put mute and call somebody, this is things that I said, you know, I don't want to work with these people because they are it's irresponsible that I want to work with them. I had a conference with so many in another culture, and he was really young. He was a millennial. He was with his phone working, and I was trying to explain. I was trying to explain him something, and he was in his phone working and typing and doing things. This non-verbal communication to me was, maybe could be a millennial, could be something new. I have to understand him, but I feel that he doesn't want to communicate with me, and I didn't want to make business with him. Now that everything is all over the place, we have to understand what is cool and what is not cool. Now, like as a closing course, because I don't want to go beyond our presentation, I want to have more questions if you have questions. This is I think our thoughts for this one. When you talk about culture, and I want to read this one, there is not right or wrong culture. Learning the difference should be always the first step in order to be successful in business in a multicultural world. Respect others. Respect the way they try to speak their language. Sometimes we are having English as a second language, but you are making business. We have the same thing. Sometimes you want to have the Spanish as a second language, and you're trying to communicate with your clients. I want to give you this advice. Don't be afraid to know more people. Open your mind. It's open possibilities that you can grow your business. This is the most important thing. Communication, business development, doing this, branding. is not translating your message. You can't translate your message. You have to put your message the way that could be cultural relevant, that other people understand the message. Sometimes the things that you see in word translations that you can have on Google is completely wrong. You can do that. Don't use this kind of things if you want to make the first impression. Try to translate, but try to speak with somebody that really know the language, that really know how to communicate in this language. It's the most important thing that you can do. Because I have an experience, and only the last things to share with you guys. When I was working with Spain, they translated presentations to English. And one of the part, they said that all of the people that will attend the expo will be aliens, like extraterrestrial, something for another world, because they translate people, you know, for another countries to like aliens. And they said the aliens could go to the expo that day. So that's the reason that we have to understand that we want to translate the message in a way that could be cultural relevant, and the way that you are sure that the message that you want to share is correctly with another culture. Again, thank you so much. I don't know, I am open to questions. And then this is the end of our presentation. I really appreciate PTC that day and Santa Fe College to give us this opportunity. I don't know, you have other questions, more open to answer them.
So I have a question, Maria, in regards to these different cultures and all of that. Which ones are the most active right now? Which ones are you seeing? Which countries are the most interested in getting into the United States or finding new products in light of the current situations that we have here with COVID and everything else, or the current climate? Is there any particular countries that are trying to get into the United States, or vice versa, that our US is trying to get into specific countries that you're seeing from your perspective?
Okay, I have the opportunity to work with Jax USA and helping them to this relationship with another countries, and also Enterprise Florida. And I learned from them that we have a lot of people, they want to get into the Northeast area. The majority of them came from Argentina, Spain, and Spain, they have a lot of interest to move more products from their side to United States. They really want to do it. And now with this COVID situation, more people or more companies from Latin America, they want to get into the American markets, because now it's more easy and we have a lot of help. All of the government, they have the commerce, we have the Department of Commerce, they want to help you to export things. They want to do things, they want to move, also to help the small businesses to grow in other markets inside and outside of the United States.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any other questions?
Yes, Maria, are these countries, I'm thinking here, are these countries still as strict in terms of their cultural protocol as they were 10, 20 years ago? The reason I'm asking is most of these guys that run these multinational corporations, they studied in some of these low context countries, and they understand through the cultural sensitization what needs to be done if they want to do business with America. But are you saying that even though that might be the case, if we as US want to do business with them, we still have to follow their rules? Isn't it some sort of like a give on both sides, because we're trying to get to a win-win situation? Because it sounds like you're saying that we over here will have to submit to their cultural norms, but I think we have to have a meeting of the mind in between the two.
I think there's a misunderstanding here. As I told you at the before, is you have to be a balance between both cultures. You have to understand both. That's the thing. You don't have to understand one culture and I have to do this. But if you want to get a business with another culture, for example, in Latin America, you have to understand them. You have to understand the way that they're doing business. and they have to understand the way that you are doing business with the same way. But that's the thing. But you are going to make business with them. That's the reason that's the reason that you have to understand a little bit more what you want. For example, I told you, you have to adapt. Is the thing. It's both sides. It's when you're sitting with them, and it's the thing that I told you with my work around the multicultural thing in different cities, is they, as a IFC, they have to adapt the language for the country that they are going to work with. But also the country that they are working, they have to adapt the norms that the IFC is providing to this country.
I might say something real quick here. Ideal case scenario is the word to learn. You might not use all those tools, but as a business owner, you have to be prepared so you don't get in a bad position as far as emotional goes. Because somebody's doing something that I have been seeing for so long in my life, this happening with the red color, and suddenly these other people are using red color with dots, and it is shocking. So learning is a process that allows you to be in a very good position to negotiate, to make the other person feel comfortable. Maybe they might not feel comfortable with your product first, but they do feel comfortable with you as a person, and they give a little bit more grounds to, let me hear you a bit more, maybe a follow-up meeting, and so on and so forth. Do we all need to quit to who we are and what the culture we grow up is? Absolutely not. It's to be, Maria used this word, open mind, but I like that is to learn ahead of time. So if you're doing a business in any with the same peer, with perhaps a different materials, you learn about those materials to know, hey, this is what I do, this is the kind of materials I use, and this other person this is materials they use, and then I can actually argue a little bit about it. So learning allows us to be prepared, allows us to not be in a cultural shock, so everything else falls through. That's the whole main point, to have this conversation and show a couple of things that give you this desire. That's the whole point, not, hey, take notes and do this. It's a desire of moving forward. I want to work with Canadians, so I'm gonna dig deeper into their culture and have some, hey, should I give them something, or should I get to the meeting straightforward with shake hands, or should I just get there and bow? Let me tell you one brief quick idea. We work with a lady from Coca-Cola who was in charge of all Latin America. She was beyond smart. She was one of the most smartest person probably I have the pleasure to work with. But every time she was going to these meetings, nobody really get to the point where she can show them how much she knew, because she was a female. And I know you said, well, 20 years ago, Latin culture, a lot of machismo and all that stuff. One simple thing she did, very simple. She dressed, when we're talking about dressing, she dressed motherly. When we said motherly, even though it's a macho culture, it's also, the mothers are like a super respectful. So once she show up in a very motherly outfit, everybody was paying attention. And after 2 meetings, she was like on point with all the ideas that she wants to implement on those countries. Again, is that something perhaps you should learn in college, taking all those MBAs? Probably yes. Unfortunately, I don't see that happening. So we have to learn, we have to be open-minded, and we have to get this desire to be prepared as much as possible, not just with the product that we're going to show and the prices and how good this is for you, but also, what can the culture throw at me, and not just be cool with it. All right? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I just wanted, I've sat on both sides of the fence. I lived 10 years in Guatemala and worked in all of Latin America. I'm originally from Belize, and then been here in the US for over 20 years now. So I've sat on both sides of the fence. I was just wanting that there's a balanced approach, because I'm thinking it was kind of skewed more that, you know, we have to submit to them. But I think on both sides, we have to give. And I think through the globalization with folks from abroad coming here and us going to different countries as well, either through travel or studying, you know, we're becoming more global in terms of how we interrelate to people. The culture piece is still very important, but I think we're becoming more global in how we operate because people are being transplanted. For example, I worked with Citibank and we were transported to Costa Rica, Argentina, Chile. We spent two years in each particular, specifically because the company wanted us to understand those different cultures.
Awesome. That's an awesome experience.
One of the things I want to share with you is we can have MBA, PhD, we can have everything. The people can study a lot, but in anything replace the contact with the people that live in every country. This is something different. When you are having a contact with them, when you are living with them, I get immersed in every single culture that I had to work with. Peru, Ecuador, Honduras, Costa Rica, I spent months there because I had to understand the government, I had to understand the culture, I have to understand the president, I have to understand everything because I was entitled to share the knowledge of one big institution to them. It's very important. Nothing replaces the contact to the people that you are working.
Thank you.
Okay, Capa, thank you so much. I don't know if you have any other questions, but.
Any other questions?
I'd just like to recommend a book, The Art of Crossing Cultures is one of the best books I've read when I was preparing for my overseas assignment. It's called The Art of Crossing Cultures, and it will of what we've heard today.
Thank you, thank you. But really appreciate that, the advice. I really love to learn every single day. I really love to, because you never end learning. That's the best important thing in life, never end learning. And I told you, I launched more than 656 brands in my whole career. And all of them are multinational because I have to work with all of the different countries and culture in Latin America. I was working with all of the pharmaceutical laboratories in Latin America, as well as governments in Latin America. And that's the thing, you never end learning. That's very, and thank you for the advice.
Well, Maria and Mania, thank you so much for this presentation. And it was really informative, and we had a lot of people that were attending, and I wanted everybody to know that we're going to send out an email to everyone that attended here with your contact information. We're going to also have a short little survey, and any other information that you would like to provide them, you certainly can give that to Elena, and Elena can get that out to everybody for this. Now, I want to make an announcement that next week, we're going to take a week off from our webinars for the 4th of July holiday. A lot of people are going to be traveling or doing things on 4th of July that week. And then we'll resume the following week. And you can see our schedule for our next webinar on our webinar page. And Elena will be sending that out to you. But we want to thank everyone here again. Thank you everyone for attending, and we appreciate your time and taking your time to see this great presentation. Everybody have a good day. Thank you. Okay.